Black Mirror Season 2, Episode 2, White Bear. Welcome back to another Floppylegss YouTube video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. We're here to rank and review another Black Mirror episode. Get used to it. We're going through every single episode of all time. Okay, we've gone through all of Season 1. We're halfway through Season 2 after today's video. And it's a White Bear. What an episode it is. If you don't know, I actually ranked this number 1 in my top 10 best Black Mirror episodes of all time. But did it live up to how I remembered it? Remember, at the end of the video, I'm going to rank it out of 10. Tell me what you think about the episode in the comments down below, and let's get into it. Spoiler warning ahead. Starting off with the story, White Bear follows Victoria. We don't know her name. She doesn't even know her name at the very beginning of the episode. She wakes up in a mysterious house with pills on the floor, with rope around her wrists, with just a bunch of question marks over what is going on, who is she, where is she, and what the hell is going on. She goes downstairs. She sees a picture on the wall of a child with her. She knows it's her because there's a mirror, and someone that she's cuddling quite close to, and we later find out it was her fiance. And we find out that there's a kid there. She thinks it's her. She takes the picture. She leaves the house, and then we start to be slowly introduced to weird people on their phones taking pictures from the windows from the end of the street, all looking and pointing at her. What is going on? We ask that question over and over again. Then out of nowhere, a car pulls up, and a man with a mask with a shotgun comes out, and he ends up chasing her and shooting her. She's running for her life, asking for help. No one's helping her, and so on and so on. We follow her through this journey. She meets Jem, I believe her name is, and this other guy, but he dies, or supposedly dies. And we see her basically just be fleeing for the whole episode, basically, and being told this story. The story from Jem that basically the world has been taken over by a signal. The signal was on her TV screen at the beginning. The signal has taken over the population. You know, the people are consumed by their phones, and the screens have taken them over from the signal, and they have just been condemned to survey and just take pictures and things of people. But some people haven't been affected by it, and some of those people choose to hunt. And that's what we see with the bunny rabbit person, the person with the big mask on and the baseball bat, etc. We all know the twist, okay? We'll get to the big twist. We'll talk about the twist in full when we get to the twist part of the episode. But you can't talk about the story without mentioning that there is that twist at the end. So we're just led to believe this is the story as an audience. And then at the end of it, she's told, we need to run to this signal tower. It's called White Bear. And every time she heard something or remembered something, she physically lets out a pain. She's in pain as she remembers something, and the noise as it comes in is like glitching noises, and that it's really like harsh on her. It's painful, which is very intriguing when you're watching it back. Of course, knowing the twist, you're seeing these little moments, and when you watch it for the first time, you genuinely are very confused. Why does she not want to go to White Bear Tower? Who is this kid that she's remembering? Why are we not getting the full story here? They go to the tower, the cell tower. They start spraying it down with petrol, and they're about to blow it up, but Jem gets attacked by one of the masked figures, and then Victoria takes the gun. Confetti. What's going on here? Even more confusion. And all of a sudden, there's a round of applause, and it's now this stage show, this theatre show, where all of the people that were videoing the general population are all sitting down watching Victoria now with their eyes, and they're all cheering her, and not cheering her, but cheering the staff that have been putting on this show the whole time. And we find out that Baxter, the person who was holding the shotgun and took them to the woods and things like that, he's been running this show, and it's called the White Bear Institute, I believe, where it's a prison sentence where she repeats this torturous day over and over and over again every single day until her sentence is over. Her memories get wiped, and she experiences it all over again and finds out why and what's been going on. And of course, we find out she was part of a horrific unaliving of that child, and she's basically been manipulated by her fiance, she said, but the fiance took his own life before any punishment could go his way, so she got the full brunt of the punishment because she was there. She filmed the torturous act. So very, very, very dark ending, and I'll get to the twist properly in a second, because that is the be-all and end-all of this episode, is the twist, in my opinion. But yeah, that is the story in the long and the short of it. We're sold this dream as an audience because we're just as delusional and confused as Victoria is. And then as we find out more information as the episode goes on, we learn that not everything adds up, and then we find out the truth at the end. And it is absolutely mental. We're going to move over to the concept now. And of course, this is hard to do my normal setup of story, concept, characters, twist, because look, at the end of the day, the twist is the episode, is the story. The twist is everything, but I'll keep the same order for now. We'll go to the concept. There's two concepts in this episode. There's the pre-believed concept of the episode, then the actual concept. Okay, so the pre-believed concept is that people have been using their technology, their phones, their Black Mirrors, their screens all over the place, and this signal has taken over their minds. Okay, just that alone was believable to be a Black Mirror episode, because that is Black Mirror. Black Mirror talks about those things, and you know, those subtle references have been done in the past, and if it was just that, you could understand what message was getting across here. However, that wasn't the actual concept. The actual concept was somebody committed a heinous crime, and their punishment wasn't incarceration, it wasn't the death penalty, it wasn't anything like that. It was to relive a torturous day for people's entertainment. I spoke about this in my top 10 video as well, but it was one of them ones where, like, does the crime justify the justice that's happened? Do you know what I mean? The punishment that's been given, does it justify? I know the crime is absolutely horrific, but this is horrific. Like, and I think the reason they presented it to us this way, they could have easily done this episode like they do with the end credit scene, where they show Baxter and Jem and all the people, like, giving the audience and instructions about the day. You know, stay far away, don't talk, enjoy yourself. They could have easily done this episode presented to us with us knowing what the story was. Do you know what I mean? They could have easily presented it to us, and we could have watched the whole thing knowing that she was a criminal but experiencing these crimes. But no, it encourages us maybe to watch it again. It encourages us to, you know, it challenges our opinions on it, because if we knew her crime from the very off, we wouldn't feel bad for her in the episode as much, depending on how much of an empath you are. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm quite empathetic, so I felt very bad for her in places, but she was also horrible for what she'd done. So it's very hard. It creates that debate in your head, very, 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 very tough debate. But they chose to do it in this order, and they chose to do that because they wanted, I think the concept is trying to poke that button, poke the bear. It's trying to bring that conversation, you know, justice system, like, does the crime warrant such a horrific punishment? And the thing that was really interesting about this concept was how involved and enjoyed the audience were, the general British public that were going there paying money to be a bystander and see all this play out. That was, I think, the biggest talking point, because I feel like there's been some absolutely horrific crimes in the world, and a lot of people go to the extremity of, like, do this and that to them. I'm not saying what should be done or what shouldn't be done, but I'm saying that is the case. And what we saw this episode was that, you know, the audience, the general public, want her to go through this a day after day after day. They hate her, they despise her, because it was such a massive case and she was a big part of it. But then I think because it's been presented to us in this way, they made, like Charlie Brooker and the writing team, the concept made us feel bad for her, because we're unaware of the truth. And then when we find out the truth, we still question, like, do I still feel bad? I don't know. You know, her agonizing screams as she gets her memory wiped every night. But then Baxter's so relishing it. He's a star. He comes out and he's like taking in the applause, like, yes, love me. So then there's another question there of, like, who are the real, like, sick people here? I'm not gonna lie, who are the real sick people here? You've got these people, paying customers, that want to go and watch her get tortured basically every day. You've got the people, the actors working on the stage, like the show, who are doing it every single day and having no remorse, no care. Yes, she deserves punishment, but is that the punishment that she deserves? I don't know. As I said, this is going to be a little bit of a different sort of episode, because I've kind of already spoken about the twist and the characters. I've spoken about it all kind of in one, but we're going to try and keep to that structure. So we're going to move over to the characters. Of course, Victoria, again, it's so difficult to talk about this episode, as I said, without referencing the twist, because she is Victoria before and Victoria afterwards. Victoria before, she's lonely. She's frantically running for her life, pleading to the people around her, help me, and she's getting ignored. And it's like, with the knowledge of what happens, it's like, well, she's made to feel like the kid in the moment, isn't she? She's made to feel like the kid who lost their life in such a terrible way. She's made to feel like that, you know, the camera on her, like she was filming the kid. Of course, you've got other characters like Baxter, as I mentioned. Baxter's like a really interesting one, because I think a lot of people watching this would be like, yeah, go on Baxter, you do, yeah, go on, lad. But I was there like saying, why are you enjoying this so much? And then the characters of the people watching, why are you enjoying this so much? Like, why? I understand the crime was mental and terrible and a global, international news. But there's one thing and then there's another. Like, there's one thing of saying, yes, she deserves incredible punishment for what she's done, but then to relish in it and watch it and enjoy it. And I don't know. There's one thing calling her a murderer, but there's one thing following her around all day as she's getting screaming for her life, unknowing to who she is and what happened. You know what I mean? I don't know. The characters, I think, I'll talk about this at the end of the episode, actually. End of this video, I'll talk about what my overall thoughts of this episode are. We move over to the twist. Of course, I've mentioned it significantly already, but one thing I wanted to mention very quickly is, in rewatching these episodes, of course, I know the twist, so I don't have the luxury to have that first experience, that first moment of realization that this isn't what it was and it's this. So when I'm ranking them out of 10, it's a little bit more difficult because I'm not getting the same exact feeling. So I have boosted up my ranking just because I'm giving it grace. I'm giving it credit for how I did feel when I first watched it. I think you can understand that. But I think it's actually the twist, knowing the twist going into this episode is also really interesting because you see it a little bit differently. I don't know how to word it. Like, she's being filmed and stuff, and she feels very uncomfortable by it. You know, when the two gentlemen are outside the house that they run to and she throws a brick at them, she's actually irate by them doing that. Well, she was the one doing it, so that there's a massive level of hypocrisy in there from her to be so angry at them. And one thing I will mention about the twist in this episode, of course, I mentioned it before, I punched my hand. If you remember in the previous episode, I went, ow. This is the first hard-hitting twist in Black Mirror. This is the first mental twist. You know, in other ones, you've got subtle little twists, nothing too drastic, nothing too mind-boggling, blowing, like this whole episode was a lie. And of course, there's one episode that we all know does it even better than that down the line. But we'll wait till we get to season 3 to talk about that one. This one, though, I think was their first attempt at a big twist. I think they saw the response, and I think it very much inspired them to do more of that in the future, because we've seen some absolutely I think that's what Black Mirror is notorious for and known for now, is the magnitude of their twists at the end. And yeah, this one was the kickstart of that, I believe, because it was just so fantastic. And as I said, I have watched it before, so it's hard to experience that twist. I actually really want to watch with my mum's, only just started watching Black Mirror properly because of season 7, and I'd actually want to watch this one with her. I want to experience that realization of the twist with somebody else watching it. That'd be quite cool. But yeah, the twist I've already spoken about in the concept as well. As a whole, this episode is just, it's a lie. It sends you down this wrong path that is so believable as a Black Mirror story, and could have been a Black Mirror story. And then you realize it's this. And then I find it also really interesting as well, as I mentioned, that they didn't tell us that this was a White Bear Institute. It was a prison sentence. Do you know what I mean? That they could have started the episode like that and not had it been a twist, and it still would have been a brilliant episode and a brilliant concept. And then, of course, within the twist as well, like, now that we know how she loses her memories every night with the painful machine that she puts on, it makes sense why her memories coming back to her are also quite glitchy and painful as she realizes them, as she sees them again. Again, that's just like a nice little connecting theme, you know, within the episode. So it's that time where I rank the episode out of 10. Okay, this video feels a little bit different to the other ones because it's hard to talk about one thing without mentioning 5 things within the other thing. But here we are. I'm gonna rank it out of 10, and as I said, I just want to put this preface in. I wouldn't have ranked it this much, but I think I've elevated it a little bit because of the twist. No fault of the episode not having the same effect on me, because I've seen it. So I am ranking this episode a 9 out of 10. And let me know if you're annoyed at that in the comments down below. But I have boosted it up. I did think when I watched it, it's probably like an 8, maybe a 7.5. I definitely enjoyed Be Right Back more as an episode, I'll be honest. However, the twist has to give it some oomph, because when I first watched this episode, I was absolutely like, this was the episode that got me into Black Mirror. This was the episode where, okay, now I'm hooked. Genuinely, it was the one that I just realized, okay, this is storytelling at its finest, because we're sent down this wrong path and then bang, just how could we all be so wrong and misled? That was the whole thought process. So I did have to boost it up quite a bit. As you can see on the table now, that does put it as my #1 spot overall from every episode I've watched thus far. It's what I've said to you, like, when I first have an opinion in my head of a number, I go with it. This one, I had to give it a boost. I had to, because the twist didn't hit me, because I already knew it was coming. Do you know what I mean? I think you can understand that. And I'll try and probably keep the same thing for future episodes when I feel like the twist is such a big part. Like, the twist is the episode. The episode is made as good as it is because of the twist. Because the actual story of the signal and the thing, it ain't that interesting. Like, as a whole, it isn't anywhere near as like mind-boggling as like, oh wow, this is this. 9 out of 10. Let me know if you agree in the comments down below. Thank you so much for going through to another Floppylegss YouTube video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Click the link in the bio and join us in all the other content that I do. Join us on the Twitch, please. We're doing a game show very, very soon as well. We're doing Weakest Legs, my version of Weakest Link. We do loads of game shows like based on real UK TV shows. So if you want to join us, some of them go on the YouTube channel as well. If you want to go scroll back and watch my Flop Traitors, my Traitors series, that'd be fantastic. I've been Floppylegss, and I'll see you when I see you.